You know, I once made dinner for my mom and she said, "Oh my gosh, darling, this is so delicious." And I said, "Mom, you got to try it first before you give me the compliment."
I opened the door for an elderly lady. You would have thought that I won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Do you allow yourself to have expectations?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think expectations are the catalyst to so much unhappiness and are grounded in wild selfishness and lack of empathy. Let me start with this. I love your books because it's popular culture, documentaries in written form. Is that fair?
I think it's good news for me because the approach that look, oral histories I think are really important because there's no way even Ernest Hemingway at a keyboard can convey the verisimilitude, the sensibilities, the uniqueness of everyone's individual voice and perspectives. And so when you have, like in the SNL book, when you have Billy Murray talking about the last time you saw Gilda Radner live, or in this book when I was talking to David Chase and Julia Louis-Dreyfus and I mean literally hundreds of others, I did 757 interviews because I feel like it's a great opportunity for readers to get behind the curtain and really hear directly from the people involved. But I'm trying to create a book of record whereby I can come in and I can use supplemental facts, like sometimes financial information or other things, just to keep
ratings or sales. Yeah, I remember. It's funny you just said that subscriptions to I've always loved that you've done that because what you're doing is you're helping me, the reader, because a lot of times what you have in your books is you have two different people describing the same event from very different points of view, just as humans like to do things. And I think effectively in the ones that I read, you bring in an outside voice that kind of brings some non-debatable data that, not that it steers you to believe one person or the other, it's just there as an anchoring for while I interpret. You like origin stories? Me too, mister. Here we go. Your origin stories. What put you in the position to have one of the more significant careers in writing?
I mean, most immediately, I got divorced when I had a 9, 7, and 3-year-old, and I was an executive before that, and I decided that I wanted to raise my kids, and so I had shared joint custody full time, and that's when I became a full-time writer, and that gave me the opportunity to be at home and take the kids to school, pick the kids to school up, they were with me half the time, and I wrote, and my entire professional schedule was built around my kid's life. And I think, I wouldn't do it any differently. I always enjoyed writing. I worked at the Washington Post, wrote for the New York Times and other things. But look, I think writing, as you well know, that it's a solitary enterprise for the most part. I mean, unless you're working on a TV show and you're in a writer's room or whatever. And I think I enjoy interaction with others, and I like the idea of working with a team and being part of a team. But for me, it was no contest, and the choice was turned out to be a great one because I got to be, with my kids.
You've taken me to your adult life. I really want to know about the neighborhood and the parenting and the foundational things.
I think I had polar opposites for parents. I once made dinner for my mom and she said, "Oh my gosh, darling, this is so delicious." And I said, "Mom, you got to try it first before you give me the compliment." And it was that, there was kind of like unbridled enthusiasm and devotion.
Blind enthusiasm.
Yeah. And my dad was just the opposite. He was very consumed by classical music. So we listened to I wasn't allowed to listen to rock and roll except on headphones. And he would, his way of coping was classical music and poker. And so he lived that life. Because they were on opposite ends, end zones, there was nothing between the 40-yard lines that I kind of learned while I was living at home. I think that was a lesson that I had to learn, once I went off to school and then in jobs. Look, I remember the first time I did something at a job, and my editor, I was at the Washington Post, my editor said, "Yeah, this is good," and then walked away. I was like, where's like the big golden star that my mom used to, give?
I remember exactly where it was, in Plainfield, New Jersey, in the Bradley Shopping Center at McDonald's. I opened the door for an elderly lady. You would have thought that I won the Nobel Peace Prize. My mom lost her shit. You are a gentleman. You are a fucking You are a golden-hearted boy. The way you treat people, not just your sister, but this woman. I think about myself. I'm a 46-year-old man, and there was 2 areas of positive reinforcement for me in the first 15, 18 years of my life. 2 core positive reinforcement engines of my life was my mother on the category of behavior, what I would call emotional intelligence, kindness as a framework, and the business world. And I'm a 46-year-old man who is black and white, a very good businessman who is obsessed with teaching people that you can be nice and a good businessman. And I sit there and I'm like, my God, and this is like how many people get affected. Like the things that I look at people who struggle because school is their positive reinforcement engine, and then real life comes in and there's nothing similar to it. As a matter of fact, one of my biggest fears about modern parenting is that parents are obsessed when they have the luxury to be paying attention, which many parents in America definitely do, with eliminating any adversity in their child's life. We used to go outside. Like our parents didn't know shit.
Oh
Jim.
my God, no idea.
If you're over 45, a lot of us remember living life where not only our parents didn't know, they didn't even know where we were. We went outside.
And they couldn't track us down because there were no phones.
The high percentage of us kept that shit to ourselves and worked it through.
Yes, except that sometimes we don't even realize that we displace, we kind of like hold on to some of those things and then we displace them in our adult lives without even being, kind of aware of it. Do you allow yourself to have expectations?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think expectations are the catalyst to so much unhappiness and are grounded in wild selfishness and lack of empathy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's not being negative. It's about, it's about managing your life in a way that, waking up every day, are you going to allow others to disappoint you? And is your antenna going to be so high that you're going to get affected by the way they say something, or if they don't say something, and then that's going to set you off on a, dark path.
So when you don't have expectations for the negative, you also don't have it for the positive, which allows you to be grounded in humility, which is very powerful. What's the thing that everybody who's listening can take from the HBO story, if they're an individual or an executive, of like, what was the driving soul that helped it become what it became?
A word of warning to entrepreneurs and innovators. Just because you come up with the idea, just because you give birth to something, doesn't mean that you will be entitled to stay with it. Bill Rasmussen basically invented ESPN, and Chuck Dolan basically invented HBO. Neither of them were around after a year and a half. The parent companies took them out because they saw them more as a IDM person rather than an operational person, and they didn't get to stay around. That's incredibly painful, and so be careful when the Lord wants to punish you, he answers your prayers. You can't just innovate once and then take a break. Innovation has to be part of your DNA.
Why is the book called Tinderbox?
Because the idea of HBO and HBO throughout the decades has been flammable. It literally blew up the business. It changed television. In some ways, it changed our culture. It changed storytelling. It changed technology. The myriad impacts that HBO had beyond just that little desktop that sat on your television. And so I kind of like the combustible quality of that.
What are some of the key ingredients to a storyteller like yourself who's grounded in listening?
For people who are good at what they do and who have a road of accomplishment that they've traveled on, you have to generally be absorbed by them.
Do you think curiosity is a core strength of yours?
It's essential. I mean, if I don't wake up in the morning curious, or if I embark upon a book or any kind of reading assignment, or any day, even if I'm not writing that day, if I'm not curious about something, that's like oxygen for me. I just, I might as well just fold up the tent and, watch an old movie.